Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
It is the Friday, December 26, 2025 episode of the Marco Dre Show. Hope everyone had a blessed, safe, and wonderful Christmas with family and friends alike. Hope you all spent time acknowledging the real reason for Christmas, of course, the birth of our Lord and Savior and the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. Thank you everyone for tuning in today's show to hear all the relevant groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Don't forget to follow the show wherever you might get your podcasts, now available on all streaming apps. Be sure to give it a follow, give it a like, and hope you're all ready for the best hour of radio, uncensored and ready to go as always. I've got so many pressing issues and, of course, topics to go over with you today that we need to discuss. Lots happened in the last 2 days that I was not here, as I'm sure most of you know by now. Let's not waste any time, though. It's Friday. I want to get right into our weekly economic report. It's been a short week for the markets, but let's dive into that first. Starting with the S&P 500, trading today at $6,926.84 a share, up 17.05 points from Tuesday, up 18% year over year. Dow Jones coming in hot as well, trading at $48,640.65 per share, up 0.41% from Tuesday, up 14% year over year. The NASDAQ, that's a big one, trading at $23,594.47 right now, up 0.14% from just the other day, and up 22% from this time at December of 2024. Look at all the rest of the tech stocks. We've got NVIDIA, Broadcom, Amazon, Micron, Oracle, Alphabet or Google, even Tesla. All these stocks, the figures are doing well, as well one can expect, especially in quarter four. Again, how many used Amazon to get something delivered to yourself this week for Christmas? Probably lots of you, right? Yep, they're up. They're all up. NVIDIA, look at NVIDIA, though. Trading up 65.22% in revenues from year over year. I mean, it's just remarkable how much they're increasing. Of course, they're a tech giant, and of course, we know that they're heavily invested in these semiconductors. Micron is up 45.43% year over year, so their stocks are looking very well. The stock market's doing very well this week. I told you before, many of this have been propped up, as one can imagine. They're investing heavily in these, so therefore these stocks have been going up. Another safe investment, though, gold, which, again, I've told you keep your eye on. Most of you that listen to the show know this. Trading right now at $4,480 right now today. Near record high pricing. I mean, it's just remarkable. 71% year over year. It is a great return. Again, expect it to increase in 2026. Again, it's closing right now towards record highs. It's remarkable how gold and silver are just crushing it right now among every other thing and every other commodity. Silver right now, the real winner, hitting a new record high this week between $75.17 and $76.33 per ounce, up 150% year over year. That is a remarkable exchange right there. I mean, I can't even believe that. I mean, look at that. ABC News also predicts that it could be up as much as 158% year over year, depending on how things close out as of next week. I mean, it's really, really a great investment. Both of these are great investments for you folks. I predict both of them are going to go up. As I've always said to you, don't just blindly invest. Sit down with a financial planner. Try to see how things are going. Look at trends. Always talk to someone before you invest. Again, I'm not giving any advice. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing in the oil prices, Brent crude trading at $61.18 per barrel today, down 1.7% from just the other day. WTI crude trading at $57.25 per barrel, down 1.089% from Tuesday. And Murban crude, that's in the UAE, trading at $62.81 per barrel, up slightly but barely from Tuesday. Again, all the stocks in oil, anything you can look at, roughly down 20 to 30% year over year, with a global supply glut being the biggest factor and the reason why all these prices have been dropping out. We can talk about the global economies dropping out as well. Then you add in factors, tensions like the Ukraine-Russia war. You also see issues stirring up with the United States in the Caribbean, with Venezuela. All of these things have a role to play in all this. And that's why you're seeing the price of oil begin to drop. Let's look at the housing market. Let's not waste any time there. Look at this. The national home value for the average home in America right now sits around $359,241, up barely. It's up 0.1% from last year at this time, according to Zillow. But look at this. The median home sales price, that's every single house, right, that's on the market. If you took them all, figured out the average for all of them, you're roughly sitting at around $410,000, $800. That's what you're looking at. And again, if of the homes that are actually sold, though, in America, the average home sale price is right now sitting at around $512,000. Yep. I mean, it's crazy how the market works right now. And you're seeing a lot of the affordability starting to stagnate, so more people are in the position where it's easier to buy a home, but we're not seeing the homes owners beginning to sell. So we're seeing a little bit of stagnation with the sales as well. Again, we have high mortgage rates that have been kept up because of the home growth price. It seems to be the same right now, with the market seeing flat or slightly rising prices right now. And again, this is probably expected to increase as we go into 2026. Again, I can't see it going down so much. I really don't like the idea of the 50-year mortgage. I've told you this before. Don't get suckered into something like that. Don't get suckered into buying your entire life. Basically, you're just renting. What, are you going to own the home for, 10 seconds? Come on. No, we need some better alternatives than this, of course. But the housing market, pretty stagnant for the remainder of 2025. I don't see things improving going into 2026 unless, of course, we begin a lot of building in that sector. I don't know if that'll happen. We're seeing in individual states, of course, like my previous home state, California, with extremely high prices. The average home price in California, over $750,000 per home. If you're lucky enough to even get that. All right, moving on to the job market quick before we go into our other articles today. I haven't seen too much out there, but I will read you this. It's saying that unemployment fell in quarter four and is estimated to be somewhere around 4.2%. If you'll all recall that I told you just recently it was reported to be 4.6%. But we won't have those real figures until after the new year. With the Bureau of Labor Statistics, hopefully we'll get some real numbers from them. Hopefully. But again, I tell you before, never always hold your breath on that one. All right. How's GDP doing, though? I got to tell you, how's GDP doing? Look at this article I've got for you in Breitbart. Came out the other day. It says, Trump boom. U.S. economy grows 4.3%, fastest in 2 years, smashing expectations. Now, all of you come in with a sigh of relief. You're so happy about this, myself included. But is this realistic? Is this an indicator that things are going in the right direction? Well, again, I'm happy that GDP is always right around 5%. That's always a positive. No, don't get me wrong on that. But it starts out by saying the U.S. economy grew this summer at the fastest pace in 2 years. Well, that's good because we had no growth under the Biden administration. None. Zero. Zilch. Now, the Commerce Department said that the U.S. gross domestic product rose at a seasonally and inflation-adjusted 4.3% annual rate in the third quarter this year. Now, the report on the July through September period was delayed due to the wonderful 43-day government shutdown brought to you by the Democratic Party, where we also lost a lot of money. So everyone's fawning over this. They're happy about the numbers. They're looking at this. They're seeing growth. We always want to see growth. Of course we do. But let me explain something to you about this. I did a little sleuthing as always, okay? The GDP right now is up due to the government investing in AI. I've talked to you about this. Look at our stock trades right now. Look how good they're doing. Why is that? Because we're heavily invested in them. We're also encouraging people to be invested in them. AI is going to be the future. So naturally, a lot of people are jumping on this ship early, to get in ahead of time. So again, while the GDP reached 4.3% in quarter three, that'd be from July 1st to September 30th, right before the government shutdown. We also imported less goods coming in from primarily China. We saw a decrease of 29% year over year from November of 2025. I'm sorry, from November. Up until November 2025. So when you import less, right, and you export more, your GDP goes up. It's just basic economics 101. So as we were in that tariff war with China, they weren't giving us as many goods. Our GDP went up as a result of that. One could imagine. Okay. So again, less imports means we don't spend as much as our GDP, therefore, goes up. Basic economics. At the same time, imports from the EU and, of course, Mexico increased. America in quarter three saw an increase in consumer spending as well. So that is also going to bring up GDP. Here's the kicker, though. The Trends Journal reports that the top 10% of people that live in our country are the main drivers of this consumer spending, attributing 50% of it going just to these people. And just so we're all clear on this, to be in the top 10%, you have to have an annual income for a household sitting at around $252,000 per year. That's your income that's coming in. Now, a single individual, you might need somewhere around $160,000 per year to be in that same spending range. On average, of course. Now, we can look at states like New York. We can look at states like California, where obviously you need to earn more to be in that 10% range. In California, to be in the top 10% of earners in the state, you have to earn somewhere around $350,000 per year. How many of you can say that you're doing that? Probably not too many. Again, it's obviously a little higher this year. You look at states like Mississippi, where you need about $190,000 to be in that top 10% range. So again, it changes over time. But the kicker is, of course, a lot of spending is coming from the very wealthy. So what's happening to the people that are not in that range? Well, again, they're the ones trying to conserve more. They're trying to save more. They're not spending as much. So again, the biggest spenders are the people that are wealthy. Again, if you're doing great, fantastic. We all wish we were doing great. No one says anything about that. That has nothing to do with it. But we have to look at spending across the board. What happens to the other people in that other group? They're not spending as much. They're not buying as much. They're not purchasing. And as a result of that, you're seeing the growth coming from the uber wealthy. That's just the truth of it. I looked at earlier today, BlackRock is eyeing some different companies that seem to be on the fritz right now, and again, to buy them up. Looking at investing, I think, somewhere between $1.4 trillion to buy up all these companies. So we have to understand where the flow of this money is going and where the control is going. It's going, again, to usually the very, very wealthy people in this country. We want it to be spread out, of course, right? So again, while these numbers, they look good, makes you feel good. Well, 4.3%, that's good. That is good. I'm happy about this. I am. Don't get me wrong. But we have to understand something. What does that mean for Main Street? What does that mean for the average American? Is it growing across the board? Do we see record high small businesses in quarter three, quarter four? We haven't. In fact, it's getting more and more difficult for them to stay afloat. Again, you'd know that if you've been listening to the show. So, again, while we see people, White House spokesman Kush Desai, President Trump built the greatest economy in the world in his first term. And he's in the process of doing it all over again. Americans can count on benefiting from a historic economic boom in 2026. Well, I hope so. We don't want an economic boom, don't we? But we want it for everybody. We want more opportunities. We want affordable homes. We want more affordable grocery prices. We all want this. Affordable car payments, insurance rates, health insurance. Now, again, I'll give Trump credit where credit's due. He's working with the pharmaceutical companies to help bring down the cost of prescription drugs. Again, would like to see more of an emphasis on us actually being healthy versus putting us on all these drugs. That's just my take on it. I believe in MAHA. Make America healthy again. Staying away from the seed oils, the ultra-processed foods, the refined carbs, the high sugary drinks, all that nonsense that really shouldn't be a part of our diet. I prefer us to be healthy, taking more supplements versus taking more prescription drugs. Regardless of all that, gross domestic product is a broad measure, of course, of the goods and services that we've collected across the economy. So what happens when China comes back in the market now? When they start trading with us again, like we saw before. We had to get them to buy our soybeans. Does that mean GDP is going to start to go down? Again, let's look where the money's going. It's going to these very big corporations, by and large. So again, prior to inflation adjustment, the economy grew at 8.2%. That's what's being estimated here in this account. It says final sales to private domestic purchasers, a slice of GDP that some economists view as a clearer measure of the health of the private sector, which grew at 3% at an annual rate, up from 3% in the second quarter. This suggests that demand from consumers and businesses remained strong and gathered a bit of steam over the summer. Okay, positive. Again, moving in the right direction. Consumer spending grew much faster than expected, expanding at a seasonally and inflation-adjusted annual rate of 3.5%. That's up from 2.5% in the second quarter this year, above the 2.7% expected. So again, all things forecasted, they're moving in the right direction. But a lot of it's being propped up largely by this AI movement. We lost 1.1 million jobs this year. Now, granted, we got a couple back, right? I think it was in November, we gained 64,000 jobs, but we also lost jobs as well. So we've got to look at all these things and all these factors. Are more people working? Is it easier for you to start a business? Is it easier for you to pay off your student loan debt? Fill up your gas tank? Well, most people would agree with that. Gas prices are coming down, largely from the reasons I've just told you. Obviously, we have the global supply, obviously the glut happening, bringing down the prices, or what have you. All these things play a factor in everything that we're seeing right now with the economy. So once I see Main Street starting to thrive, that's how you know you have a vibrant economy. Once we see the manufacturing jobs coming back and Americans taking them, and we don't need 50-year mortgages, that's how you know the economy is doing great. But right now, again, all the things that I'm seeing forecast. Remember I told you the other day, they're estimating that 9.2% of an increase will occur in utilities due to heating costs because it's going to be a cold winter. 9.2% higher is what you'll be paying. Now, it is important to note that the jobs that have been obviously obtained are not government jobs like we saw under the Biden administration. And again, largely Trump cut a lot of government jobs. So we're seeing it go to the private sector. That's a good thing. So again, I'm not saying that things are bad. Don't be upset about this, but I'm just saying a lot of it's being driven, again, by the AI boom that we're seeing right now. And at some point, that bubble is going to bust, just so we're all clear on that. And again, the government shutdown, we don't know if that'll affect the numbers so much. We don't know. But we'll see exactly what happens there. All right, so not a bad week for the economy. Obviously, quarter four, more consumer spending than in quarter three, of course. Yep, so we'll see how things go. Most of you probably remember now. Yesterday, we saw this. I saw this yesterday evening. Those of you that were possibly paying attention, like I was. Apparently, we bombed ISIS camps inside Nigeria. So right before I was going to bed, I looked at this. I said, what is going on here? Why is this happening? But yeah, we did. And it says here that Nigeria said that its response to terrorism goes beyond borders after the U.S. launched airstrikes against the Islamic State's militants in the West African country on Thursday, on Christmas. I said, please tell me that Trump didn't just go in on his own and bomb these camps, allegedly. Now, it looks to see that he did get permission and he did work with the Nigerian government. I have confirmed with several other sites and articles. And it does appear that this was done in accordance with the Nigerian government. So it wasn't just we just bombed them for the hell of it. Now, the Nigerian Foreign Minister, Yusuf Tugar, took to X on Friday, saying that Nigeria's focus remains on the protection of innocent lives and the defeat of terrorism through coordinated attacks with partners who respect sovereignty and regional stability. This goes beyond borders, and so must the response. Our approach is firm, collaborative, and grounded in the understanding that security in Nigeria is inseparable from scrutiny across the wider region. So what's the issue going on here? President Trump brought this up earlier, a few months ago, and he discussed that the outrage, of course, by the Christians in these countries, mostly in Western Africa, they're being killed, they're being persecuted, simply for their religious belief. And again, we've seen video footage of it. I unfortunately have seen video footage of it. I don't want you to see video footage of it, but it does exist. And it's as awful as you can imagine. But why is Nigeria being picked out from all these countries? This is my question. Now, there are militant Islamic groups in this region. Think Boko Haram, think the Fulani extremists in the region. You can think about the Islamic States of the Western African Alliance. All these groups are problems in the region. And they don't just persecute Christians, they also persecute Muslims, other communities in Nigeria and across some of these other countries in the region. So they're right to say that it's not just a Nigerian thing. And again, it's not coming from the government, it's coming from these terror groups that live in these regions. And it seems that they cooperated with each other and these attacks took place. We're not told specifically how many people died. They're saying that these ISIS members were killed. We don't have a figure on it. We don't know who has been killed. We don't have any innocent people have been killed. We don't know. We haven't been told anything yet. Certainly nothing that I can see. But the counterterrorism efforts, obviously, they're being worked in with the Nigerian government. That seems to be what Fox News is telling us. And it seems that, well, they've tried to take these people out. But I did find something interesting here, though. I found this in the Associated Press. Let me read this to you. It says, Nigerian villagers are rattled by U.S. airstrikes that made their homes shake and the sky glow red. So I guess the government obviously wasn't going to tell people about this ahead of time. But the strikes shocked many people in the area, as one can imagine. It says here that a 40-year-old farmer in the Nigerian village of Jabo was preparing for bed Thursday night when he heard a loud noise. It sounded like a plane crashing. He rushed outside in his mud house with his wife to see the sky glowing bright red. The light burned bright for hours. It was almost like daytime. Again, he didn't learn about the U.S. attack until much later on about the Islamic State camp nearby. And it goes as U.S. President Donald Trump announced late Thursday that the U.S. had launched a powerful and deadly strike against the ISIS terrorist scum in the northwest region of Nigeria. And again, the Nigerian government confirmed the strike was a joint collaboration with the United States, not just President Trump or Pete Hegseth just simply launching this attack. But it was met with panic and confusion about the airstrikes, what was happening. The people in this village said they never experienced a terror attack, even though attacks regularly occur in neighboring villages. Again, go watch the movie Lord of Wars with Nicolas Cage. You can go watch Blood Diamond. All these things happen that you see in these movies. And again, it's pretty awful, obviously, that these things happen, and we all find them abhorrent. But I want to ask a question, though. I want to ask a question to you, the listener. Why is this just exclusively happening in Nigeria? Now, of course, we know many of these ISIS camps are in this region. Their headquarters, I know Boko Haram's headquarters are in Nigeria. But there are other countries as well where Christians, if we're going with the statements Trump has made, they were doing this because Christians are being persecuted in the region. They're being killed, among other things. Why are we just making this exclusive to Nigeria? Let me read to you some of these other countries, too, by the way, just so you know I'm not making this up. Now, Nigeria does rank for lethal risk, of course, for Christians, among others. And they have the Islamist terrorist groups, Boko Haram, Islamic State of Western Africa, Providence, Fulani militants. There's criminal armed groups that go out and commit these atrocities against lots of people in the country. Again, Nigeria's massive. There's 220 million people that live there. It's huge. And again, it's historically the deadliest country for Christians by killing. And again, the trend obviously continues in 2025. But this has been going on for a long time now. Boko Haram has been around since 2002. This isn't anything that just started up overnight. And while we see these numbers increase, obviously, over time, it's going to get worse. But look at this one. The number 2 country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And again, jihadist-linked groups are the main perpetrators. They massacre Christian villages and church communities, typically in eastern portion of the Dominican Republic. So, the Democratic Republic of Congo, excuse me. Yeah. But why aren't we doing anything there? They're in a war right now, aren't they? Why are we trying to stop this? Why aren't we doing anything there? Why are we bombing the groups in this region? Nobody knows. Burkina Faso, also in West Africa, jihadist-linked groups linked to ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Large-scale village attacks occur, church closures, and targeted killings. Christians are often singled out by majority Muslims in the region. Are we bombing Burkina Faso? Why not? How about the Central African Republic? They have militia groups, right? And of course, other armed groups as well. Long-running sectarian conflict. Christians and churches are frequently attacked in cycles of revenge. Let's go over to Mali, Western Africa. Jihadist groups control large rural areas. Christians in certain regions face threats of execution, forced conversion, or have to flee, or they're displaced. Somalia, right? We're bombing them right now still, and we have throughout 2025. For what reason, I have no idea. This group is the Al-Shabaab group. All right. Tiny underground Christian community, converts risk death if discovered. Numbers are small, but the threat is extreme. Let's go over to Pakistan. Let's go over to Southeast Asia, right? Pakistan, extremist mobs. What do? Well, they have blasphemy accusations that can lead to mob killings. Churches in Christian neighborhoods periodically are attacked. Why are we doing anything with Pakistan? Nobody knows. Okay, let's go on to the Sudan. Go back to Africa. Number 8 on this list. Security forces, militias, Islamist groups. And I think the video I saw, unfortunately, of a mother and her children being slaughtered by these scum, was in the Sudan. It says here, post-coup instability and conflict, churches attacked and Christians targeted in some regions. Yep. Let's go over to India. Let's go right over to Pakistan's neighbor. Hindu nationalist mobs, some complicit local officials as well. Rising attacks on Christians and churches, killings occur, though on a lower scale than Nigeria and the Dominican. I keep saying Dominican Republic. It says DR, so I keep thinking Dominican Republic. The Democratic Republic of the Congo. There you go. Again, we can't talk to Modi? What's going on here? Last one is Myanmar, which I always know as Burma. Military juntas, aligned militias, Christian villages, and Christian churches are bombed or burned in ethnic minority areas. Are we dropping any bombs on Myanmar on Christmas? I don't know why. So my question to you is, again, I'm not saying that we don't want to stop this. Don't get me wrong. And again, Nigeria is by a wide margin the biggest number where these casualties occur. But why are we not doing this in other places as well, where it's prevalent? Why not? Again, we can look at, for example, we can go look at North Korea. North Korea, you can look at Kenya, same thing. Christians have been killed in 2025 by armed groups, not directed by the government per se, but it is prevalent in Kenya too. Look at China. China will stop Christians from preaching, from praying. They'll shut it down. They'll put people in jail. Why are we doing anything to China right now? I mean, look at these groups. Look at this. It says here that in 2025, this is in Kenya, report from the International Christian Concern notes a disturbing rise in targeted attacks on Christians in Africa, including Kenya, with documented incidents of killings, abductions, and displacements in the first quarter of 2025. So the report highlights patterns and examples, but it does not provide the precise national total of Christians killed in Kenya. And again, we probably don't ever get the real numbers in many of these cases. Let's look at Syria. Why not look at Syria too? El-Sharaz, a head chopper, killed American citizens. Now apparently he's been invited to the White House. He killed, it's estimated, 32 Christians earlier this year in 2 different attacks that we know of. He's also killed over 1,000 Alawites and Druze, these ethnic minorities inside Syria. Why haven't we done anything about Syria? How come we're not bombing Syria with Israel? If we're out here to save Christians, it doesn't make any sense. So again, I just asked, why aren't we consistent with this, folks? That's the other thing I'm asking you. If we're going to protect people because of religious persecution, and we're concerned about this, why aren't we going into some of these other... Why are we going into North Korea? Same thing. Torture, execution, jail, all these things happen for Christians in North Korea. Again, look at all these countries. Syria, same thing happening. What about what's happening to the small but Christian population in the West Bank, inside Gaza, that are under persecution from the IDF? Why haven't we done a damn thing about that? Nobody asked that question, too. Now, if you listen to my show, you understand that there is still people getting killed every single day inside Gaza. There's people getting killed every single day inside the West Bank as well. And, of course, they're building more settlements in the West Bank, making it much more volatile and hostile, of course, for the Palestinians that are there. So my question to you is, we see these other examples. Why aren't we doing anything about this? That's the big question. That's the big question. So, I look at this report coming out of the Observatory for Religious Freedom in Africa, and it gives this long-winded documented account, actually. But it's not just Christians. They're killing, and there's 11,000 different acts of violence from October 2019 to September 2023. That's a hell of a lot. I mean, that's pretty much every single day you have attacks going on. But this has caused 56,000 innocent lives to be claimed. 21,621 people abducted. The amount of bloodshed is appalling. Now, it includes civilians. It includes terror death groups, the Nigerian armed forces, deaths all alike. But of that 56,000, 30,880 were civilians. And in this breakdown, this is what it says, 16,769 were Christians, brutally murdered. 6,235 Muslims, also killed. And they have 7,722 deaths of civilians of whose religion was not known. So, the likelihood, again, in Nigeria specifically, there's a 6.5% chance increase that if you're Christian, you'll be more likely to be killed. 5.1 times more likely to be abducted if you're a Christian. So again, it's a major issue. It's a major issue. And again, we should hold these groups accountable. Again, none of this is new to Africa or in these regions. Or it's certainly not in Nigeria exclusively, although while it is very prevalent. But, I did a little bit more research on this. I said, well, what's the draw just to Nigeria? What's going on here? Why Nigeria? When we have the Sudan, Kenya. I mean, you look at all these other countries in the region. Mali, Burkina Faso, the Congo. We just met with the Congo. No addressing what's going on with Christians. It's the second country in the world where Christians are mostly persecuted. Nothing there? Again, why can't we talk with Syria? What's going on there? We can't talk with Israel? I mean, what's going on here? Pakistan, India? They're all on the top 10 list for Christians being persecuted. And don't give me this one's a little bit more extreme. I'm sorry, if you have people going out and killing people regularly because of their religion, how many people? Over 1 billion people live in India. So even if it is a small portion of the population, it's still a hell of a lot of people. But I want to read this to you. I did some looking at what's going on inside Nigeria right now. I could be wrong about this assumption. I don't know. We've done the same thing in Afghanistan fighting terrorism. We've done the same thing in Iraq fighting terrorism. We did the same thing in Yemen fighting terrorism. We're doing the same thing right now in Venezuela. But for those of you that don't know, or aren't aware, rather, the vast wealth of resources inside Nigeria, it's one of the most densely rich resource states inside Africa. Again, it contains vast deposits of oil, natural gas, minerals, and especially, get this, rare earth minerals as well. Now, I can see some of you saying to yourself, well, we must keep a presence in Nigeria, help the Christians of the region, right? You can see that being said, right? We don't want anyone to be slaughtered. Of course we don't. And again, thanks to us, our appreciation, we'd like to access the following. What do they got? Well, it's the number one state inside Africa for crude oil exports. Natural gas. Again, Nigeria has some of the world's largest reserves. Remember, it's going to be cold this winter. Coal as well. America loves coal so much. And let's see, butadiene. One of the largest deposits globally used for asphalt. Yep. What else do they have? Gold. Yep. Fort Knox is empty. We'd love to fill that up. Iron ore for steel production. Columbite, used in alloys. Limestone, again, used in cement production. Lead, zinc, gemstones, tin, gypsum, uranium. I mean, the list goes on. Marble, clay, salt. I mean, they have so many resources in this country. So I say to myself, we're making our presence known inside Nigeria. That seems to be what we're doing right now. Anyone that's looking at this could see this. Again, we haven't said anything about Nigeria. Biden said nothing about it. Now, I will give Trump credit. He put Nigeria on the list of countries of concern back when he was in his first term, of course. But we didn't do anything about what was happening, and nothing stopped. Nothing slowed down. So what's changed? That's my question to you. What has changed? Why all of a sudden interest in what's happening inside Nigeria? And again, you look at the list of things for energy, the solid minerals, and now you look at the rare earths. Look at this. Nigeria also has a substantial number of deposits of rare earth minerals. I don't need to read all these names to you, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 different ones here. And they're used for a variety of things. Electric vehicle motors, wind turbines, smartphones, defense technologies, semiconductors. NVIDIA would love that, by the way. and lasers. Lasers. There we go. We're going to put lasers on our new ships that I'm going to read to you about momentarily. And by the way, there is a plant inside Nigeria. It's being built right now. It costs about $400 million. And it's going to process 12,000 tons of rare earth minerals inside this facility and critical metals per year. So, again, it's all being done by this company. I believe the name is Hasetian. Yeah, I think that's what the name of it is. Let me see here. If I'm not mistaken. Yep. Hasetian's Commodities Incorporated. Okay, there we go. Or Limited, excuse me. $400 million. That is a lot of money to put in. And from what I've looked at, they're the ones who are investing in this. They're a company that's big in mining and all that other nonsense. So they're involved in all this. And they're reinvesting into this rare earths now because they've obviously found that they can mine for rare earths as well. So now, is the United States going to come in and say, you know what, we'd like a piece of this company. We'd like to work directly with you, because we're not doing that here in the United States. And just to be clear, again, I told you before, because I read, because I know what's going on, whoever controls the AI market, whoever controls these precious rare earth minerals, or metals rather, they're going to be leading the future. And President Trump knows this. And just so we're all clear, again, China produces 44 million tons. Right? They control roughly 85 to 95% of the global rare earth market. Far more than any other nation, by the way. China is the number one processor in the world of this. Yep. Brazil, coming in second, 21 million tons. India, 6.9 million tons. Australia, 5.7 million tons. And Russia has 3.8 million tons. It seems like BRICS is going to be leading the market, folks. Look at that. I told you, China and India are going to lead this market. It looks like Brazil can get in on this too, and obviously Russia as well. Again, Trump knows. He's not stupid. He understands what's going on. He understands this. So he's trying to get some leverage. Obviously, we know that China has greatly invested inside Africa. And I think Trump wants to get in on the action. I'm not saying he doesn't care about Christians. Don't get me wrong. But again, it just seems odd we're focusing on one country when this is happening in many other countries in the region by the same type of ISIS-backed, Al-Qaeda-backed Islamist groups. So again, I ask you, why only Nigeria? Just because the numbers are higher? So we don't care if Christians are killed in the Congo or the Sudan? Or inside Mali? Or Chad? Or Cameroon? Or Niger? Nobody cares about that? How about in Syria? Do you care about the Syrian Christians whose lives are at risk? How about the Palestinian Christians? Small groups, yes, of course, but they're still there. So again, I'm trying to look ahead here. I'm trying to tell you what I think is happening here. But it does seem that we might want a piece of the action. That's what I'm just trying to say to you. Again, I could be completely wrong. We could just bomb these guys and get out. But when have we ever just bombed and got out of these countries? Did we just bomb and get out of Afghanistan? Did it work, by the way? What's our track record with this working? We bombed the hell out of Afghanistan. It's a failed state now. ISIS still now runs the country. Iraq is the same situation. Couldn't defeat the terrorism there. Again, Syria, same thing. Same thing happening in Syria now. Again, failed state. The whole region's a mess. People are displaced. So again, I ask you, when has this tactic worked? Is it going to work in Venezuela as well? We're going to go in and take out Maduro? And what do you think? We're going to leave the 303, million barrels? Is it million or billion? I forget what it is. It's some absurd number of oil just sitting there under the ground, and we're just going to leave that there and not do anything with it? Come on, folks. Let's not be naive or anything here. So as the reports come out, I will try to share more information with you. Again, it's still very fresh. At least I'm happy at least that we didn't just do this on our own and that we actually consulted with the Nigerian government before all this happened. All right, let's move on quickly. Lots more to go over. All right, let's go into this Gateway Pundit article I have for you. And again, this goes back to the Trump doctrine we seem to find ourselves in. It says U.S. executes deadly attack on low-profile drug smuggling vessel in Eastern Pacific now. Trump says soon we'll be starting the same program on land. So this isn't stopping. This campaign of we're just going to bomb and invade, I think is seems to be the motif here. This is the Trump mantra. We're going in to help people. We're going to help people, but therefore we're going to take your assets as well. This is from the 23rd, but it says U.S. Southern Command announced on Monday that Joint Task Force Southern Spear attacked another drug smuggling vessel in the Eastern Pacific this time, killing one male narco-terrorist. They put narco-terrorist in quotes because, again, we have no proof of that. It says intelligence confirmed the low-profile vessel was transiting along known narco-trafficking routes in the Eastern Pacific and was engaged in narco-trafficking operations. So the Southcom said in a statement. Folks, I told you this again. There's no proof that these people are doing anything illegal. We can assert they're doing something illegal. We can assert they're bringing the drugs to the United States. We all abhor drug use. I would hope so. But the international law does not allow us to do this. Even our own Constitution doesn't allow us to do this. Even if they are bringing drugs to the United States, you can't just kill people. Now, most people don't care, of course. They say, well, let's just kill them, doesn't matter. Whatever, I voted for this. Really, you voted for killing people without any type of jurisprudence whatsoever? But because they're foreigners, you think you can just kill people left and right? I think you should reread the Constitution if you believe that. But this has been ongoing. I mean, it's not stopping. It's not going to stop anytime soon. We've seen at least 105 different so-called narco-terrorists have been killed since these operations began back in September of this year. And it doesn't seem to be stopping. Even when Hegseth was caught red-handed killing people that were shipwrecked, clinging to wreckage, that hasn't stopped them. They're continuing on with this. I mean, this is just nonstop. And where is the Congress? Where's the Supreme Court? Why hasn't anyone said anything about all this? Nobody said a damn thing about the blockade that's happening now outside of Venezuela as well. All these things are a cause for concern. And by the way, the last U.S. seized oil tanker in the Caribbean had 1.9 million barrels of oil, all bought by China, by the way, that President Trump has publicly stated will be keeping. So we're going to keep oil processed in Venezuela, bought by China. On its way to China, we're going to take the oil and the boat. How is this going to vibe with China now? Something tells me not very well. And, apparently there was a third ship that they tried to stop, but that didn't stop for the U.S. naval blockade. And they're searching for the boat now, I believe. This is a major issue, besides the fact that it's piracy. And again, it's illegal, and it's a war crime. There's no other way to say this to you. You cannot just simply declare somebody can't trade. The United States has no ability to do that. Now, we can go to the UN and create a resolution and obviously get it recognized, and then it becomes international law. But we're not seeing that here. The United States is simply just stopping these ships. They're directing them to go wherever they want them to go, and they're seizing the assets of what's on these oil tankers. And apparently now we're going to keep the ship as well. Again, you've never heard anything like this before. Take a listen.
What are we going to do with the oil that we have?
Going to do with what?
The oil that has been seized. The United States seized 1.9 million barrels of oil on December 10th.
We're going to keep it. We're keeping it.
Where's it going? Are we going to sell it or put it in the strategic oil?
Maybe we'll sell it. Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we'll use it in the strategic reserves. We're keeping it. We keep keeping the ships also.
So we're going to keep a ship that's not ours. We're going to take oil that's been paid for by China. And then we're going to sell it to who? Back to China? Folks, this is piracy on the seas. This is theft. This violates international law. Blockades are active of war. And we're getting more and more closer every single day. It's not like we just set up a blockade and we'll prevent trade. Now we're actually seizing assets that other people have purchased, other nations, and we're keeping it for ourselves and taking it just because we feel like it. I told you before, the tensions in this region, they're heating up, and something is going to break very, very soon. Mark my words. Something is going to break very, very soon in this region. All right, moving on. NBC News says I hear that Trump announces new class of U.S. battleships named after himself, as one could imagine. Says here that the making of these ships, President Trump announced at Mar-a-Lago on just the other day, said that Naval Secretary John Phelan referred to the warships as Trump-class battleships, and so that a forthcoming vessel dubbed the USS Defiant will be the largest, deadliest, and most versatile and best-looking warship anywhere on the world's oceans. Interesting. It says here that the Trump eponymous battleships will be armed with guns and missiles, as well as hypersonic weapons, electronic rail guns, and high-powered lasers. Oh, what did I just tell you about where lasers can be, used for? Some of these rare earths that are in Nigeria. And now all of a sudden we're going to build ships with lasers in them. Interesting. I find that very interesting when you put all the pieces together. Trump said that he envisions that the ships will be the first of a whole new class of battleships to be produced in the years to come, noting an eventual goal of 20 to 25 new battleships. Well, again, our numbers are low, so that's obviously a good thing that we are creating these ships, but when you look at these, when you look at all the things that are pressing issues to us right now, when you look at the amount of debt we're in, we're going to build these very, very expensive now new battleships. Okay, well, I guess if we have the money for it, why not, right? Trump said on Monday that these have been under design consideration for a long time, and it started with him in the first term. Again, we've had the smallest Navy, I believe, since World War I under Barack Obama. I don't know how many ships Trump actually built in his first term. Biden probably couldn't even do anything. I doubt he even did anything for this. So, yeah, we do need to up our Navy ships, obviously. And it seems like Trump is going to be the person that does it. That's just the way it's going to be, folks. You might as well spend the money from the NDAA on something good, right? At least we'll have new ships. Anyways, moving on. By the way, we're also going to be working, this is out of Bloomberg, so South Korea and U.S. seek new deal to cooperate on nuclear submarines. Yeah, we're always ramping up for the next big war, aren't we? So South Korea and the United States have agreed to pursue a separate agreement to formalize Seoul's right to build nuclear-powered submarines, and working-level talks will begin early next year. Speaking to reporters after visiting Washington, Sung Lak said that he discussed the issue and other security arrangements with senior officials, including the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and Energy Secretary Chris Wright. So again, this just tells me people are preparing for war. That's what it comes down to. That's what all this comes down to. This is what's going to happen. South Korea wants to obviously stave off North Korea, of course, possibly China, who knows. It says here, we agreed on a separate agreement is necessary for nuclear submarine cooperation and decided to pursue it. South Korea is now seeking to equip submarines with a reactor using low-enriched fuel at levels of 20% or less and has no plans to adopt highly enriched uranium, he said, adding that he had highlighted Lee's commitment to non-proliferation. Okay. So the South Korea is largely banned from enriching uranium under a civilian nuclear energy deal with the U.S., So was looking at Australia's case where it had obtained an exemption through a standalone accord with Washington, allowing Canberra to sign an AUKUS accord with the U.S. and the U.K. in 2021. So again, all these, all of what we're seeing now, this the spending on national defense instead of obviously spending it on people. Again, I'm not aware of anything as far as national security happening with South Korea. I haven't heard anything. Heck, I haven't even heard anything about the United States having any issues with national security except with our southern border and the illegal aliens in the country. Who are we preparing to go to war with? Anyone? Who? Vietnam? Is that it? Vietnam. Venezuela? That's going to be the next Vietnam. That's why I'm thinking about that. Look at this. Seoul's defense minister said that he aims to conclude negotiations with the United States within 2 years on securing an arrangement for the supply of nuclear fuel. Yeah. So we're going to give a nuclear submarines. There we go, folks. There we go. All right. One last article, though, before we leave today. I think it's a good idea to close on this note. I had a couple more articles I wanted to share with you. I'll get to them on Monday. One was absolutely tragic that took place in Seattle. I can't even believe it. And, of course, I wanted to talk to you about the flash floods that are happening throughout California that are very, very devastating, and we're seeing lots of roadway flooding and what have you. But I'm going to close with this article today before we hit our weekend. It says here that in Newsweek, Sam Alito says Supreme Court responding to Trump acting aggressively. Well, where the hell's the Supreme Court been all year? Now, Alito, probably the only main conservative, obviously, besides Clarence Thomas, stated that an inclination by presidents to try and do more and more and more using their own power, or what they believe to be their own power, is what's happening right now. He told this to an Italian news outlet called Corriere della Sera. Yeah, there we go. And now under President Trump, this is Alito saying this, it's just gone on like this. And he's used to executive power very aggressively. And what we have seen since the beginning of his second term, since January, is that so many of these things that had been done are immediately challenged out in court. We have 680 district court judges, a district judge that says it's unconstitutional or it's unlawful, and then the case comes to us as an emergency matter. Now, he's absolutely right about all this. Absolutely right about all this. Trump, in many different situations, and again, I've read to you what's happening in the Caribbean is completely legal. The seizure of foreign companies, foreign states, oil tankers being seized. We're taking the boat, and we're taking the assets on it, and we're going to sell it to somebody else? Where does it say we can do that in the Constitution? Where does it say we can create a blockade? We're not at war with Venezuela. By any stretch of any international law, that is an act of war on another country to prevent trade. On a country that has zero sanctions on it, by the way. That's why at least I was pleased when I read that Trump didn't just bomb in Nigeria, I said to myself, please don't tell me he's bombed without even consulting with the government. It appears, as of right now, the Nigerian government has been cooperating and working with Trump to do this. Apparently. That's what it said. From anything I can find, that's what it's saying. But here we have, this is just wrong. Absolutely wrong. Look at the tariffs. Tariffs are supposed to be issued by Congress. Now, Mike Johnson, I guess, is happy to just hand over that power to President Trump. He's just being a yes man. It's supposed to be Congress that signs legislation to add new tariffs, not the president. Now we do look under this International Emergency Economic Powers Act that Trump is using to say, hey, I can do whatever I want with the tariffs now. Saying that we have large deficits with other countries. Well, hey, we've had deficits with other countries since the 1930s. What are we talking about here? Let's look at history. Let's look at what's going on here. But with the fact that we're just going to, do this with Venezuela? They're just going to blow up boats in the Caribbean? In the Eastern Pacific? And then say, well, they're narco-terrorists. Everything's okay. Don't worry about it. They're narco-terrorists. Don't worry about it. Where is the Constitution, folks? Where is the Constitution? And again, is this going to go well for Trump? I don't know. But clearly Alito believes, and he says it here, he says, what has happened over the course of the 20th century is that Congress has delegated its authority to the executive branch. That's happened since the Civil War too, folks, by the way, in case you're wondering about that. And he says, and right now, because of the polarization in the country, it's almost impossible to get things through Congress. So as a result, the executive agencies make most of the law. If you look at the end of any year, if you just stacked up all the regulations that they've issued and compare that to laws Congress has passed, the regulations are many, many times bigger. Well, he's right about this. The executive branch is holding more and more power than ever before. Again, it's not just indicative of President Trump. Joe Biden did this. Barack Obama did this. Look at George W. Bush. I mean, all these people. We have a separation of powers for a reason, folks. We have the right to do this because we elect the representatives to these positions so we can hear about this. You hear about a bill coming through. And that's why I thought what Kevin McCarthy did in the House was so important that, hey, we announce a bill, we have 3 days before we can even pass it. That way it gives people time to contact the representatives. If that does anything, but still, we have the right to do that. That's not happening when it's done by fiat through pen. So I think it'll be interesting to see how all that turns out. But the Supreme Court has not yet issued a ruling on Trump's tariffs yet through this International Emergency Economic Powers Act that he's using this under. But there is a lot to go over with President Trump, folks. There is a lot of things. And again, it's a complete 180 from where he was back in his first term, though. We're seeing a much more aggressive step on many different cases here. And we've never seen things like we're seeing right now. Again, it's really, really insane the times we live in. But we are not following the Constitution in many of these regards. Folks, thank you again for being here today. I appreciate you so much. Hope you learned something new and hope you enjoy the information. Please share the show with as many people as possible to get the truth out. As I said before, I hope you had a very blessed Christmas as well. Don't forget, make changes in your own home, in your own life. Always stay prepared. And I will see you again here on Monday on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, and God bless.